Welcome to my channel, The Historic State. Before we dive into the chilling, true story of an army general who fundamentally forgot that experience is the only commodity that defies time, take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe right now. Your support is the single thing that keeps these legends of true battlefield grit and concealed expertise alive in the modern discourse. Now, let's establish the scene. The modern army hospital. It's a place of technological arrogance, a gleaming sanctuary where youthful surgeons, armed with digital screens and $20 million robotics, believe they have conquered the brutal chaos of war. In this environment of sterile digital precision, a volunteer nurse with an aged, weathered appearance is easily dismissed. Her presence is deemed an anachronism, a liability, a reminder of a messy history that the modern military prefers to forget. NNBUT, what happens when the very place meant to heal is suddenly and violently under siege? When the Wi-Fi goes dark and the advanced robotics seize up? When the digital age of trauma surgery collapses into the iron age of survival? Today, we bring you the astonishing, geometrically precise story of General Marcus Thorne, a man whose youthful competence was defined entirely by his rank and his access to technology, and Nurse Elara Vance, a volunteer dismissed purely and cruelly for her age. When the attack came, Elara didn't just survive. She revealed a past so profound, so devastatingly skilled, that it belonged not just to history but to another century altogether. She performed an act of surgical brilliance and battlefield triage that didn't just save multiple lives. It proved that true mastery, the kind forged in true fire, never, ever fades. It simply waits 9. Our story begins inside the pristine cold halls of the 47th Army Forward Surgical Unit. This facility was a marvel of modern military medicine, but it was run with a suffocating machine-like efficiency by General Marcus Thorne. Thorne, a surgeon of immense modern skill, had the arrogance to match his title. He believed only in cutting-edge technology, aggressive speed, and youthful, energetic rigor. For him, age equaled obsolescence. NNHI's primary target for this disdain was Nurse Elara Vance. A civilian volunteer, she was clearly old enough to be his grandmother. She moved with a slow, deliberate calm, her spine rigid with decades of unspoken discipline. Her hands, though wrinkled, were unnervingly steady, and her eyes, though soft, possessed a piercing intensity that seemed to see through the general's facade. But for Thorne, her age was a visible sign of a lack of energy profile, a critical deficit in his book. And General Thorne, Nurse Vance, with all due respect, your energy profile is not suitable for a level 1 trauma environment. This is a place for gigaflop speed, not 19th century memory. Focus on the paperwork. Leave the critical patients to the staff whose hands don't remember the First World War. Elara never argued. She simply absorbed the hostility into her existing reservoir of composure. While the young staff zipped through automated routines, checking digital vital signs and relying on pre-programmed algorithms, Elara observed the patients with a preternatural, intuitive calm. Her movements were economical, her presence unobtrusive. The general saw weakness and timidity. She was merely observing the situation, waiting for the variables, the chaos, the emergency, the moment of truth, to become absolutes. She understood that the body does not care about algorithms. It only cares about time and blood loss. NNTHE world shattered without warning. The attack was immediate, aggressive, and brutal, an assault designed to maximize disruption and psychological damage. The hospital, the ultimate beacon of healing, instantly became a combat zone. Panic erupted like a burst artery. The young surgical teams, trained exclusively for controlled, well-lit, fully monitored environments, froze. The general's advanced training, designed for scenarios where every monitor was green, was useless. The hospital's redundant power grid buckled under the sustained attack. Critical life support systems sputtered and died. The digital age of surgery collapsed into the terrifying pre-modern darkness. General Thorne, attempting to issue orders, found his advanced trauma knowledge useless against the sheer kinetic chaos of the moment. He was shouting into a dead microphone. NNTWO soldiers, victims of the initial blast, were rushed in. Their condition was code red, absolute bleed out. Their wounds were catastrophic. deep complex shrapnel damage, and multiple perforations. The primary surgical team was paralyzed by shock. General Thorne, seeing the intricate, deep-set wounds under the unreliable emergency light, found his reliance on technology was his fatal flaw. His protocols required imaging and advanced tools that were now inert. The system had failed him entirely. NNTHE life support systems failed completely. The monitors went silent. The high-pitched whine was replaced by a deafening, absolute silence. In that moment of utter, catastrophic failure, Nurse Elara Vance moved. NNSHE didn't run for cover. She didn't shout. She simply walked to the operating table. Her movements were sudden, decisive, and chillingly precise. She saw the problem not as a matter of broken technology, but as a matter of simple, brutal fluid dynamics. Blood leaving a container. A nurse, Elara Vance. General, step away. Now. You rely on machines. I rely on human anatomy and time management. Elara took the scalpel. Her hands, wrinkled and dismissed as relics moments ago, moved with the terrifying speed and surgical brutalism of a bygone era. She didn't need the dead monitors. She didn't need the bright lights. She worked purely by touch, memory, and instinct. Skills honed in a time when light was often a kerosene lantern and the sound of bombing was your only background music. NNSHE used techniques the young surgeons had only read about in history books, often dismissed as primitive, rapid field ligation, tourniquet application, and tactical compression. Working in the near darkness, guided only by the emergency lights and her perfect internalized map of the human body, she sealed the hemorrhages with impossibly swift, clean ligatures. This was not modern surgery. This was survival surgery, executed by a master. In less than 3 minutes, a time that should have ensured death, the massive bleeding was stopped. The lives that were fading were snatched back from the edge. Elara had defeated the general's modern training with historical mastery. NNTHE, immediate danger past. The wounded were stabilized. Standing calmly amidst the chaos, her composure absolute, was Nurse Elara Vance, a high-ranking senior general, accompanying the relief force, stopped dead at the sight of her. His eyes widened in disbelief, then filled with deep, unmistakable reverence. Then Senior General, Thorne, what in God's name happened here? The casualty reports were catastrophic. And Elara? Is that truly you? NNTHE Senior General turned from Elara to a bewildered Thorne, the verdict in his voice, and Senior General. General, you are looking at the reason those men are alive. This is not just Nurse Vance. This is Field Nurse Major Elara Vance, the Angel of the Somme. The woman who personally pioneered the triage and battlefield hemostasis techniques that saved thousands in the First World War's dirtiest field hospitals. Her hands were legendary for performing clean, life-saving surgery under heavy shelling, with no light, no monitors, and zero modern equipment. She vanished after the war, believed dead, but now we know she was here, watching your little show, and NTHE General's modern arrogance was utterly shattered. He had dismissed a living legend, a master surgeon forged in a crucible of trauma he could only read about in dusty tomes. He judged by the date on her birth certificate. She responded by saving his entire unit with 100-year-old wisdom. Nurse Elara Vance simply faded back into her role, quietly cleaning her instruments, her life-saving Tier 1 skill once again concealed beneath the facade of a simple volunteer. Her story, however, became a permanent legend whispered through the ranks of the modern army, a reminder that the most lethal life-saving competence is often hidden in plain sight. Elara Vance taught everyone, from the general down to the newest corpsman, a brutal, undeniable lesson. The officer who judges by a timeline or a technology budget will always be defeated by the mastery of a veteran whose skills were forged by history itself. She proved that true competence is timeless, and the sharpest scalpel is always the one wielded by experience. NNT thank you for watching The Historic State. If this incredible story of ageless skill, profound sacrifice, and shattered arrogance moved you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Tell us, what is the most dangerous form of blindness in a leader? Because here, we know that true power is not in the size of the weapon you carry, but in the experience that allows you to survive when all weapons fail.